Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Brianne and this is Diary of a Homemaker. Today we are back in the kitchen. We are doing another kitchen restock. If you are new here and have not seen these before, basically on Sundays we do a kitchen restock where I make several or just a few homemade items to get us through the week. Typically, I make just a little bit extra and that will go into the freezer, and that's exactly what we're doing today. I had a ton of zucchini from the garden that I had to do something with. Some of it had sat on our kitchen table for a few days now, and I could not bear to see them go bad. So I had to get that done. This honestly seemed like the never-ending bowl of zucchini. It just kept going and going and going, but we finally got it all taken care of. I don't have to worry about it. I did end up going back out to the garden to make sure that we got everything. That way I took care of it all at one time and I didn't have to worry about it. We only keep the outside of the zucchini, so all of the inside will go to the chickens and then they can turn that into eggs for us. It's nice because absolutely nothing goes to waste here. We really do try to use up every little piece. It was right about here that I noticed that you'll see my food processor broke. We've actually had this since 2014. We got it as a wedding gift, and it has been a workhorse for us. We have used this thing so much and it finally bit the dust. So we did go to Walmart unexpectedly and we had to purchase a new food processor. We did end up going with a KitchenAid brand. No particular reason, but this was actually on clearance in Walmart. So we saved a few dollars and we got a quality piece of kitchen equipment. You'll see in just a minute. This was completely operator error. I was putting in the blade wrong and I didn't know that I was putting in the blade wrong. So there's actually two ways that you can put this blade in. I learned, and so once I had it figured out and I had the blade in properly, it worked beautifully, and this thing is going to get its fair share of use. So all of the zucchini is going to be preserved today. Part of it is going to be making a couple batches of muffins. I end up doing 2 double batches of muffins that give us just over 4 dozen muffins, and then the rest of it ended up getting preserved in freezer bags. So if you missed my last video, or a couple videos back actually, I shared with you all how and why I preserve zucchini the way that I do. I will link that video below if you're interested in seeing it. But yeah, I just went ahead and shred everything. All of that zucchini, it ended up to be a mountain of shredded zucchini, more than I could have possibly anticipated or possibly baked up into muffins today. These muffins will not only be for this week. I need to mention that. We will probably keep out about a dozen, and then the rest of them will go ahead and get frozen on a cookie sheet flat, and then they'll get packaged after they're frozen into gallon Ziploc bags. Those bags will just be put in our stand-up freezer, which is all of our like prepared meals type freezer. And we'll just be able to pull those out whenever we want to, whenever we want some muffins for the week, or if we just need a snack, something to go, like if we're just going somewhere and we need to take something with us, those muffins will come in such handy. We'll just be able to throw them in a bag and take them with us, and we don't have to worry about eating snacks on the go or reaching for processed food, which can be very tempting whenever you are out and about. One of these days, I'd really love to do a video sharing with you all how I got started on this Whole Foods journey. I didn't really wake up one day and think, oh, I'm just going to cook everything from scratch. It kind of snowballed from a lot of different things, and through a lot of different videos and just things that I learned about, I somehow ended up here. So this is all the zucchini that we ended up getting. Like I said, I couldn't have anticipated this much. I Every year I try to keep a pretty good total on how much we're growing, and I did good until about mid-July, and then that's whenever everything started coming in. And so totals have not been keeping track anymore. But right here, I do want to point out, this is where the lid or the blade has to go in. It was sitting down a certain depth, and that's why I wasn't having very good results. So again, operator error, that was my fault. So this zucchini muffin recipe is actually a little bit of a tweaked recipe. I found the recipe from Farmhouse on Boone. It was originally a chocolate zucchini muffin recipe, and I had just changed a few ingredients to make it more of a traditional type zucchini bread, but muffin. If you are new to sourdough, I highly recommend her. She actually has a channel and a blog. So I read both. I read her blog and I also watch all of her videos. She is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to sourdough. So I will be sure to link the recipe of hers below, and then I will add it was just a couple changes that I made just to make it more of a traditional zucchini muffin, and I will have those in the description box as well. So like I had mentioned earlier on in the video, I did end up doing 4 batches. So I ended up doing 2 double batches of these muffins. Each batch or each like recipe ended up making 12 muffins with just like 1 extra. They actually made 13 muffins each. So I ended up having just over 4 dozen muffins by the time this was all said and done. I really just love having muffins, so they are so easy to just take with us. So I don't necessarily love making like breads, like sweetbreads. I really just prefer a muffin because it's an individual sized portion. All of my muffin liners do come from Azure Standard. I use their If You Care brand, so it is an unbleached parchment liner, the exact same as the parchment paper that I use. So I also use their parchment paper, and it is brown, it is unbleached, and doesn't have a lot of the chemicals and just yuck things that you find in your regular parchment paper that you get from the store. So you will see I do use those in all of my liners. I do use the parchment paper for my crackers, and I really just enjoy using that. If you are new to Azure Standard or have never heard of Azure Standard before, they are a family-owned and independent company dedicated to providing carefully chosen, affordable, organic, natural, and non-GMO groceries, health, household, and garden products. From their website, it says they have over 12,000 options to meet the needs of health-minded households. And I do know that buying organic or healthier options can be expensive, and being able to purchase things in bulk does allow you to save money. So it really does allow you to stretch your budget just a little bit further. And for me, I know that where my money is going. So I love knowing that my money is going to companies that are for people's health and want to provide options for people looking for healthier options. If you would like to see some of the items that I purchase on a regular basis from Azure, I do have a Azure haul playlist where I share with you all everything that I purchase for that month. I do have my September order on its way, so it's actually being shipped for my drop, or shipped to my drop as we speak. And so that video will be coming out very soon. If you are interested in getting started with Azure or really just want some more information about them, I will add their website in the description box below, as well as my direct link. If you do shop through my direct link, I do get a little bit of a credit if your purchase is over $100. I do, of course, appreciate that if you do shop through that. You will then have your own Azure code that you can share with your friends and family, and then you will end up getting a credit for every purchase that they use by shopping through your link. So just another reason that I love Azure. They love giving back to you, and it's really just a win-win for everybody. Next up is our ranch dip. So if you are on TikTok, then you know cottage cheese has been all the rage. And this is my own take on the blended cottage cheese ranch dip. So it is about 2 cups of cottage cheese, 1 teaspoon of dried parsley, 1 teaspoon of dill, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and then I ended up using half and half to thin it down. I was out of half and half, so I ended up using just a little bit more milk just to get it to the right consistency. I really love this dip because it is so good with the sourdough crackers. It's a super easy snack. It is high in protein and it's delicious. So totally customizable how runny or thick you want it. I prefer a thicker dip because we are usually dipping crackers in it. But again, you could totally thin this down and make it more of like a runnier salad dressing. I am going to show you here in just a minute the consistency, and the consistency for me is perfect. So I will just go ahead, put a lid on this and put it in the fridge. This usually only lasts us a few days. We go through it pretty quickly. So it'll just hang out in the fridge and we'll eat it over the next week, and that's it. After we get done making the ranch, I do go ahead and make a batch of our taco seasoning. This is not my recipe. I did not invent this recipe, and I will link this recipe below. As you can see, I do have it on my note card, and that's a pretty good indicator that this recipe is a staple recipe for us. I found this recipe about a year ago, and again, once I find a recipe that works for our family, I just stick with it. I don't do change well, and so I just prefer to stay with things that work well for us. So again, that recipe will be linked below for you. It is super simple. It has whole ingredients. Again, all of our seasonings come from Azure. I know that I talk about them so much, but it truly is because I order so many things from them. It is how I have built the pantry that we have with the budget that we have, and being able to have the things on hand that we have is because of Azure. So this recipe: chili powder, ground cumin, salt, black pepper, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, crushed red pepper flakes, and dried oregano. I simply put all of this in a jar and give it a good shake, and then this will store in my pantry indefinitely. So as long as I use it, this is going to last. Now our muffins are starting to come out of the oven, so I do need to go ahead and get these on a cooling rack. I prefer to just cool them on the cooling rack. These do have coconut oil in them, and so sometimes the coconut oil can tend to get on the bottom of the, like on the table. So I do just cool these on a cooling rack, let them come to room temperature. Then they will get frozen on the flat cookie sheet and then put in bags to store in the freezer. I will show you just a glimpse here how we process our zucchini. Like I said, I do have a video going over how and why I do our zucchini, but this is a pretty quick overview. I simply portion it out into Ziploc bags, and then it gets dated and labeled always, so we know when and what it is. I know it's so easy for things to get pushed around in the freezer. I don't know what this is. I don't know when this was harvested, what even is this? And so I always make sure to label things. Here we are doing the parfaits, and I ended up running out of blueberries, and so I ended up using some raspberries that I had ordered for a chicken marinade. But I just went ahead and used those because that's all that I had on hand. Again, I have shown you how I do my parfaits, and if you are interested in that, that is in my very first kitchen restock video. So only 2 weeks ago. This is a new thing, but I do show you exactly how I do my parfaits, and it is something that I do every single week. The last thing on my list for today was some sourdough crackers. So I did already make up the batter or the dough. That is also in my last video. Please be sure to watch that if you're looking for the recipe. But I just wanted to go ahead and show you how I bake these up. I usually make a double or triple batch at a time. That dough gets stored in the fridge all week, or up to a week, I should say. But I wanted to show you how these bake up because I did not show that in the last video. It is a very soft dough, so it is kind of like a Play-Doh consistency, and you are going to want to make sure that you flour this pretty well because it can be kind of sticky. You're just going to roll this out. It's going to be very thin. I would say probably about 1/8 of an inch, and you're really going to try to make it as even as possible. I know that can be challenging, and it's okay if it's not perfect. This dough, again, want to reiterate that it can be sticky, so don't be afraid to flour it on the top because you don't want that sticking to your rolling pin. And I do want to point out that the shape is not perfect. I just don't have time to be a perfectionist in a lot of things, specifically crackers. I don't care if they are not shaped perfectly. I'm just trying to get it to a flat, even thickness. That way it can be that way it will cook evenly. Because if it's not, your edges are going to end up probably too thin, and then they're going to burn, and then they're not going to taste good. So you're just going to want to really take your time here, making sure to flour your dough and roll it out as evenly as possible. I do like using a pizza cutter to cut the dough, so to cut it into squares. It is going to be much easier to cut these before you put them in the oven than trying to cut them after they come out of the oven. Don't ask me how I know, but I know. But yeah, you're just going to want to cut it. Again, I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfectionist. I don't have time to be a perfectionist in a lot of different things, but I do just cut it. I cut it like I cut it, and you get what you get. So they aren't perfect, and that's okay. I did have some pieces of raspberry that I had clearly dropped on the counter, and so I was picking those out. Don't mind that. These do go in the oven, and they do cook perfectly. I will show you what they look like before they go into the oven. And then I am going to show you everything that we got today. So we did end up getting almost 4.5 dozen muffins. We got 1 cooked batch of sourdough crackers. That is for snack. I'm starving. 2 batches of sourdough cracker dough that will be for this week. We ended up doing 5 parfaits. We ended up getting 15 bags of shredded zucchini, which I think is totally amazing. All of that went into the freezer, and I think that's all. I totally forgot. We also did the ranch dip, and then we also did the taco seasoning. So today was a very productive day. It was a long day, but it is always worth it. I know cooking from scratch can be a time commitment, and so doing these kitchen restocks on Sunday really does allow me to prep for the week. I can make the mess once and have multiple things throughout the week. I have snacks on hand, I have meals ready to go, and it just works really well for my family. So if you are still here, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you taking time to watch these videos. If you haven't, I would love for you to consider subscribing to the channel. We are really just getting going, and I just thank you so much for being here and for watching these. So until next time, bye.